In this section, we'll discuss how to analyze competitive advantage for companies and introduce strategic information systems. First, let's go over the definitions of competitive advantage and strategic information systems. Competitive strategy is a statement identifying a business approach to compete, its goals and plans and policies required to attain these goals. Strategic information system is an information system that helps an organization to achieve and maintain competitive advantages. The best known framework for analyzing competitiveness is Michael Porter's competitive forces model. Companies can use this model to analyze their competitive advantages. There are 5 forces in this model: the threat of new entrants, the bargaining power of suppliers, the bargaining power of customers or buyers, the threat of substitute products or services, and the rivalry among existing firms within the industry. In the next few slides, I will go over each force. The first force is called the threat of entry of new competitors. The threat that new competitors will enter your market is high when the entry is easy and low when there are significant barriers to entry. An entry barrier is a product or service feature that customers have learned to expect from organizations in certain industry. Okay, let's take a look at this table and think about this question. How great is the threat of new competitors entering the marketplace for companies that make corner, latte stand, and for professional football team? Which is the strong force and which is the weak force? The threat that new competitors will enter the corner latte stand market is high because it is relatively easy to enter the market. So, this is the strong force. Professional football team would be the weak force because it takes years to train a football player. The second force is called the bargaining power of suppliers. Supplier power is high when buyers have few choices from whom to buy and low when buyers have many choices. Okay, let's go through some examples. Let's think about how much bargaining power do suppliers have. There are 3 examples. Grain farmers in a surplus year. Microsoft's relationship with PC manufacturers. And students purchasing gasoline. Okay, first, grain farmers in a surplus year. Since it is a surplus year, farmers as the supplier will be the weak force because buyers will have many choices to choose from. Second, Microsoft's relationship with PC manufacturers. Microsoft will be the strong force because buyers, which is the PC manufacturers, have very few choices to choose from. Third, students purchasing gasoline. This is a little bit tricky. If that area has a lot of gas station, which is the supplier, will be the weak force because students have a lot of choices. However, if the area has very few gas stations, gas station will be the strong force because students have few choices. So for this one, students purchasing gasoline, you can either put this into the strong force cell or the weak force cell. The third force is called bargaining power of customers or buyers. Buyer power is high when buyers have many choices from whom to buy, and low when buyers have few choices. Again, let's go through some examples. Let's think about how much bargaining power do customers have. There are 3 examples. Toyota's purchase of auto paint. Your power over the policies of your university. First, Toyota's purchase of auto paint. Toyota is a large and well-established company, and there are a lot of auto paint companies in the market. Thus, Toyota's bargaining power will be high because they have many choices to choose their auto paint suppliers. Second, your power over the policies of your university. This will be a relatively weak force because you do not have much choices. Okay, by the way, LMU does care about students' opinions, but they need to consider what's the best for the majority of students. For example, they cannot cancel final exams because of a single student. So that's why your power over the policies of your university will be relatively low. The fourth one is called the threat of substitute products or services. If there are many alternatives to an organization's products or services, the threat of substitutes is high. If there are few alternatives, then the threat is low. Let's take a look at this figure and think about this question. How much of a threat do substitution products or services pose? First, patients use the only drug effective for their cancer. And second, frequent travelers' choice of auto rental. Let's take a look at the first one. Patients using the only drug effective for their cancer. Since it is the only drug, there is no alternatives. Thus, the threat of substitutions is low. Second, frequent travelers' choice of auto rental. Since there are many alternatives for auto rental companies, the threat of substitutions is high. The last force is called the rivalry among existing firms in the industry. The threat from rivalry is high when there is intense competition among many firms in an industry. The threat is low when the competition is among fewer firms and is not as intense. Okay, again, let's take a look at this table and think about this question. How great is the rivalry among existing firms? Internal Revenue Service (IRS) and used car dealers. First, IRS. Well, we all know IRS do not have competitors, so the threat of rivalry will be low. Second, used car dealers. Since there is intense competition among second-hand car market, the threat of rivalry for the used car dealers will be high. Organizations use Porter's competitive forces model to decide general strategies. To identify specific activities in which they can use competitive strategies, they could use a value chain model. A value chain is a sequence of activities through which the organization's inputs are transformed into valuable outputs. And the value chain model identifies points where an organization can use information technology to achieve competitive advantage. According to Porter's value chain model, the activities conducted in any organization can be divided into two categories, which are primary activities and support activities. Primary activities relates to production and distribution of products and services, while support activities support primary activities, contributing to competitive advantage. Here are 5 primary activities for manufacturing companies, including inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and after-sales service. And here are the examples for 4 support activities, such as firms' infrastructure activities, including accounting, finance, and management, human resource management, product and technology development, and procurement. Here is a figure about Porter's value chain model that maps primary activities and support activities into the value chain. There are some examples of how organizations develop strategies to counter the 5 competitive forces identified by Porter. Companies can be cost leadership by producing products and services at the lowest cost. Company can also offer different products, services, or product features than their competitors, which is called differentiation. Companies can enhance their innovation force by introducing new products and services, add new features to existing products and services, or develop new ways to produce them. Companies can also improve the manner in which a firm executes its internal business processes so that it performs these activities more effectively than its rivals. This is called operational effectiveness. Customer orientation is also a good strategy, which means to concentrate on making customers happy. This figure provides an overview of the strategies that we discussed earlier. The best way for organizations to maximize the strategic value of IT is to achieve business information technology alignment. Business information technology alignment is the tight integration of the IT function with the strategy, mission, and goals of the organization. For example, Walmart's main strategy is to become the cost leader in the market. So, Walmart used IS information systems to enhance communication between stores and vendors. By doing so, their inventory costs decreased and inbound logistics becomes more efficient. For another example, Apple's main strategy is to become the innovation leader. So, Apple used information systems to enable rapid innovation and create new market spaces, which is also called the blue ocean strategy. Okay, what do you learn from these two examples? We need to have a tight integration of the IT function with the company's strategy. Okay, that's the end of this chapter.